So Sunil, thank you so much for agreeing to talk to me. Sunil is a producer who worked on two Disney films, worked on Salt with Angelina Jolie, Premonition film, which was
Sandra Bullock.
with Sandra Bullock. You worked on an independent film with Alicia Silverstone, and you are a king of independent filmmaking now.
Yes, I made five indies, five independent films in the last few years, and more to come.
What was your experience collaborating with Angelina Jolie, and any takeaways from working with her?
I mean, it was an incredible experience. It was a bit of a different era in Hollywood. Like, one of the reasons even I'm doing independent film is the bigger studios are all owned by corporations, and I'm not even sure they would make Salt today. It was too risky. You didn't know whether you were rooting for or against the Salt character. Angelina embraced everything about it. She was a pleasure to work with. We ended up being a massive blockbuster. Angie was incredibly dedicated, passionate, gave it her all in every which way possible. So,
Yes.
in general, she had, I think, very artistic and sophisticated taste, which kind of meshed with Philip Noyce's taste. Like nobody wanted to make a dumb blockbuster. They wanted to make something that was, interesting. Our cinematographer has won the Oscar for There Will Be Blood, so we had a lot of artistic, crew involved and really brilliant artists. So I think when she signed on, she obviously knew Philip, and Philip, he has an incredible track record from, the huge Harrison Ford Clear and Present Danger films to, critical darlings like Rabbit Proof Fence and Quiet American. So it was very synergistic, what she wanted and what we wanted.
You also collaborated with a very famous Polish actor, Daniel Olbrychski.
Yes.
How did your collaboration come about with
Philip
Daniel?
Noyce wanted a authentic Russian actor to play that role, but because of the Russian themes, we were having a little bit of trouble there. And so our casting director
Why
found Daniel.
though? Why? Why did you have, because it was way before the war, and why did you have a trouble picking
I think I think even in Russia, the movie opened and then nosedived. I think because the villains are Russian, there's a little bit of an issue there. And so they found Daniel, they brought him, they loved him, and he had a very authentic, very real. It was great. I mean, he was incredible. If I recall, he didn't speak fluent English, so we had to translate everything for him. But it just he really did come to the table in a very, very authentic, credible, realistic way. I think that's everything today. You need those kind of performances.
Do you see different way of acting between European actors and Hollywood actors?
I think, look, the European actors I've worked with in general, including Obrisky, they're very, very present. I think acting in Hollywood is 15 different types. There's my favorite type of acting, which me and the films, I've done. I love where actors become the character, where they're very present in that character. But a lot of television acting here, which is, it doesn't interest me to watch, isn't acting so much as they just cast who's perfect for the role. There's not a lot of acting there. I love like Meryl Streep. Like she's so curious about human nature. She creates all these different characters from Devil Wears Prada to Kramer versus Kramer to you name it. It's extraordinary, and I love that.
So Premonition and Sandra Bullock, what was your experience working with her?
I mean, she was great as well. Look, that was an interesting film because it was my second movie I produced.
Mhm.
It shot in Shreveport, Louisiana, but it was really resting on my shoulders. And I'm not sure I even had the experience then knowing
The
what
poster is behind you, right?
What?
The
The
poster
posters
is
behind me,
behind you. Yeah.
exactly. Sandy was great. She took it very seriously. I think our director, who's had trouble, I don't think he's directed a film again. There were just a lot of issues on that film that I learned as I moved forward to avoid. I think there was a lot of arguing about the budget. And I learned on that film, there's no more money. Like I think a lot of filmmakers think there's some secret pot of money lying around somewhere, but there isn't. And that was a film where I really learned you got to be tough on budget, tough on time, all of those kinds of things. And even little things like we spent a lot of money. I want to say 3 million of our 18 million budget on this car crash at the end. We ended up cutting most of it out. Be smart about what you're spending your money on.
How do you even voice your opinions when there are so many producers and so many people involved?
Honestly, because Salt, Enchanted, even Premonition, and even Blast from the Past, like my indies, I developed the script initially. So Enchanted was a script I developed with a writer. We sold it in a 6-studio bidding war. 5 other studios wanted to make the film. We sold it to Disney. Because you create it and bring it to them, it gives you a little bit more credibility to actually have a voice in the creative process. Because the studios today really want to make big best-selling books, a big video game, the Marvel, the DC. So if I brought them a big best-selling book from the beginning, because it's really nothing I brought to the table outside of the IP, I think you get into committee filmmaking. I think that's why those Marvel movies, they're great for what they are, but they don't interest me anymore. They just all feel like more of the same.
So you feel like with an independent filmmaking, you as a producer, you can be more creative than within bigger productions, right? And that's the main reason you independent filmmaking.
Today, absolutely. I just feel a little bit like I want to explore human nature and characters and ideas and things that are original. I don't think the system in Hollywood is set up for that kind of originality anymore, especially the studios and streamers. Everything I seem to watch lately that the studios and the streamers are doing, all the characters come from another movie. They're not real characters. They don't live in our world today. There's an argument that a lot of streaming films, the idea, like I read an article that like a big amount of Netflix viewers are doing something else when they watch a Netflix movie. So the movie isn't meant to be
do it at home, yeah.
that you get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you have to pay attention too much. And again, I like movies with real characters that explore things in an interesting way, and you just have so much more creativity in independent film.
Do you feel like there's even a space for independent films in theaters as of now?
Absolutely. That's why I'm saying Terrifier 3. It's here, let me just tell you right now what Terrifier 3.
I wonder if it's gonna come to Poland.
Let's go. So Terrifier 3, it did 89 million domestically. That it cost 2 million to make. It went out. It's one of the highest grossing independent films at this budget range. I think at the under 2 million range, the highest ever.
What's the topic? What's the film about?
It's a horror film, but it got good reviews. It's 78% on Rotten Tomatoes. It world premiered at Sitges and played at Fantastic Fest. That's the thing that's interesting is that what they did was such an outlier and such a unique out of the box way of doing things. I think there is a future of indie films hitting theaters, but we need the system to start understanding what that is. I think the business is trying to figure out how to reinvent itself right now, to be honest.
Part of it is a right story around the film. Do you remember Blair Witch Project?
Yeah, that was a phenom. That was exactly the kind of thing we're saying.
I went to see that film just because of the whole story around the film, and it was just brilliant.
Absolutely. And so, and I think, look, with everything being digital and social media and marketing, I think there are no rules to the independent game, and that's how people need to start thinking. But I do think the established companies and distributors will always be risk averse, and they don't love thinking outside the box, because if you fail doing it the way that's already written to do, you're not blamed. If you go out of the box and fail, you're blamed.
What advice would you give aspiring filmmakers who want to succeed in the independent film industry?
Start with something, whether it's a genre film, whether it's a thriller, horror, sci-fi, start with something smaller that doesn't cost a lot, that can absolutely play at some festivals. I don't think what you should do as an independent filmmaker is try to make something that you think is a commercial Netflix movie or a commercial studio movie because they already are making what they make. They don't need ours, you know? So, but then here's the little bit of a trick. Once you get into it with the artistic thing, at some point you got to start transitioning into commercial artistic because it's the other thing there's dozens of movies that play at all the big festivals and nobody wants to distribute them or they're not making any money either. So how do you find that way of getting noticed at interesting festivals? But maybe it's like doing an elevated horror film that plays at Fright Fest out of London, gets some really nice reviews, and now you have like the beginnings of a resume that will excite people for the next one. You know, it's building a credible resume to make the next level want to work with you. So the thing that's also interesting is when you go elevated and differentiated, you'll also have pushback because it's not what's normal. But in the long run, I do think elevated and differentiated will always win big. You just have to push it, you know?
Why do you think it's still hard for actors from outside of the United States to be able to actively work in the United States?
I mean, I just think it's hard for actors here too. I just don't think we make enough movies anymore. I think we need more originality. I want different actors. I feel like everything I turn on, it's the same five actors. Part of it is just when I came to Hollywood in the early 90s, the vibe was all about like, who do I not know? Who have I not read? Who have I not seen? And I want to see it. And if they're good, bring them in. It's very tough today to get people to read a script, watch a movie, watch an audition tape. It doesn't seem, it seems like corporate kind of things guide the system more, but I think that opens up a lot of opportunity for the independent filmmaker. So I think any industry like Hollywood has barriers to entry that are a little bit harder. And especially today where people don't like new. They like what they've seen before. You know, a lot of I think look, I think new faces, new voices, incredible. That's what we need more of. You know, a lot of what I'm working on, like three of the films that I'm developing are with female filmmakers, you know, and they're very unique voices. And I love that. And I love working with people that, you know, they aren't plastered all over the place, you know, so there's like a bit of a freshness to it.
How is the whole Me Too movement in Hollywood doing? Is it still happening?
I
Is it
mean,
still
look, I think any of these movements need to do what really needs to happen, which is we have to stop people from, using sex as a weapon in the workplace, which is unacceptable in every which way. But my gut instinct is that, in 2017, 18, 19, the Me Too movement was really, really open. I wonder, has it really, settled or does just no one call anyone out on anything anymore?
how is
I
Weinstein doing? Because I heard he's out of jail, right?
Oh no, he's still in prison. I do think people now, not all, but I think people are very careful who they go to dinner and drinks with now and what parties they go to. There's a little bit like nobody really wants to be around people they don't know if they're in a position, on both sides of it. I am a big fan of like reminding everyone we're human beings and how do we be kinder and more empathetic to everybody.